Hello and welcome everyone. Today's video features a full review guide of the Minegumo. Minegumo, which means Summit Cloud, was the 8th of 10 Asashio-class destroyers built for the Imperial Japanese Navy in the mid-1930s under the Circle 2 Supplementary Naval Expansion Program, following a design created after Japan departed from international treaties aimed at restricting naval armament. Now, during the Pacific War, Minegumo played a role in the invasions of Malaya, the Philippines, and the Dutch East Indies. Minegumo also took part in the Battle of the Java Sea and frequently transported reinforcements as part of the Tokyo Express. It was during such one of these transport missions on the 5th of March 1943 that Minegumo was sunk along with fellow Japanese destroyer Murasame by an American squadron consisting of 3 Cleveland-class light cruisers and 3 Fletcher-class destroyers in a battle off the southern tip of the Solomon Islands, later known as the Battle of Blackett Strait. So let's get down to the meat and bones of this Minegumo review. What is this ship good at and how does she play? Well, in my opinion, Minegumo excels as being an ambush predator, both using her guns and her torpedoes to catch enemy ships by surprise and deliver deadly amounts of ordnance on target, giving your opponent very little time to react. Now, let me just quickly show you the build that I am using that dictates this playstyle. Now, I have built into guns, including both accuracy and reload mod for the guns in the upgrades, and also, when it comes to the skills, I've gone for boosting the main battery. Now, this might sound a little bit surprising considering how good these torpedoes are, but let me explain why as we progress further through the video. So, in terms of armor layout, very standard. It's all 19mm except for the superstructure, which is 13mm. The gun turrets get 20mm of protection on all sides, including the frontal plate. That ties in directly to the survivability, 18,250. Now, this can be further boosted should you have access to one of the Suzuki captains, the bonus captains in the armory. They give a nice little boost to the ship's hit points. They both have a bonus to the captain's skill survivability expert, which is quite nice. But that is the base hit points, 18,250 with this build. So let's take a look at these main battery guns. Minegumo gets 3 twin-mounted turrets, 1 fore and 2 aft, 127mm guns, 6 in total. These have a 5-second reload. They have a max dispersion of 90 meters with a max firing range of 11 kilometers. Now, I must point out there is a very slow turning time of 26.1 seconds for rotating these turrets 180 degrees, and one should take this into account whenever engaging any kind of target that is close up. Any kind of close maneuvering against a target that is maneuvering close to you, it will be very difficult to keep your guns on target, as you can see from this little mini engagement here on screen. Otherwise, at medium range, anything close to your concealment range and to long range, the turret traverse is fine. These can fire both high explosive and armor piercing. The high explosive has a max damage of 2,150 with fire flags, and this build you have a 10% fire chance. They can penetrate 21mm of armor, these high explosive shells, and they have a shell speed of 915 meters per second. Any kind of engagement where you can use your concealment to your advantage and be in a kiting position, it's very easy to use the majority of your guns and keep them bared on your target at all times. Very difficult to deal with when Minegumo is kiting in this position. Otherwise, the alpha of these guns is quite nice, and enemy DDs will feel a lot of pain when you land these shells on target. Minegumo can also fire armor piercing. These have the same shell speed and slightly improved damage of 2,200, which I did find a little bit noticeable. There is literally 50 damage between the high explosive and the armor piercing, but in any case, moving to the ship's torpedoes. Now with this build, Minegumo has a reload time of 100 seconds. Now you can adjust this, of course, should you go and choose to play with a full torpedo build. You can bring this down to 76 seconds using both upgrades, the torpedo reload mod in slot 6 and captain skills. So you can bring that down to 76 seconds. But I've gone and I much prefer this gun focus build, where I'm relying on my guns to deal with enemy DDs, and then my torpedoes are ready for any kind of target of opportunity. Now what does stand out with Minegumo is she gets 2 different types of torpedoes. Type 93s, which are long range, 15 kilometers max range, just under 21,000 damage, little bit on the slow side, 57 knots, and they have a concealment or a detectability range of 1.7. In general, I found these to be a little bit lacking. The slow speed and high detectability range means that you really have to catch someone mid-turn or sleeping to land these long-range torps. The other torps, however, these Type 53 Mod 1s, have a max damage of just over 21,000. They have a very fast torpedo speed of 77 knots, but a shorter range of 6.5 kilometers and a detectability range of 1.5 kilometers. These are going to be your real damage dealers. When you get opportunities, having dealt with enemy destroyers and enemy radar has been removed from the field, then this ship can go to work. Get in close, use these very fast short-range torpedoes, and you will be surprised at how many opportunities you will get to actually use these. Not every game, of course, but I found pretty regularly opportunities to get in close and use these while still being undetected. It's not like you have to. Of course there will be opportunities where you see you can YOLO targets and potentially survive, which, much to the annoyance of enemy players, I might add, they don't seem to like this whatsoever. But in any case, these are the short-range torpedoes, these F3s, and quite useful, and quite satisfying, I might add. Getting in close and personal, landing these torps, it's guaranteed to cause max rage, which is always enjoyable. Minegumo also gets depth charges, 2 charges, max damage of 4,600, 8 bombs per charge, which is quite nice. So you can potentially land a lot of charges on target. Now these do have a slow reload time of 40 seconds, but you're dumping a lot of charges into the water at the one time. And I did find it is difficult dealing with submarines, as the Minegumo lacks hydroacoustic search, but in general, if you're clued in and watching your environment and following the clues, you can still deal with enemy submarines. When it comes to AA defense, well, it's kind of dramatically bad. I have already lost count of the amount of games where my AA has been completely knocked out, and I have 0 AA. It consists of 2 twin-mounted 25mm, but these 2 guns are virtually side by side, and it's not unusual for both of these to literally get knocked out in one salvo. They've got very limited firing range of 2.5 kilometers, and even when they survive, the continuous damage is 11. Yes, I said it, 11. So do not expect to be shooting down enemy aircraft. And any kind of aircraft carrier that drops fighters on top of you is going to be incredibly dangerous, as you're unable to shoot them down. Literally unable to shoot them down. So dealing with enemy aircraft is going to be very, very difficult. Now that will remain to be seen what happens with aircraft spotting in the future, but currently, right at the moment of release, that is what it's going to be like. When it comes to maneuverability, Minegumo gets a base speed of 35 knots. Now you can improve this with the Sierra Mike signal flag to 36.8 knots. You do have access to the engine boost, which gives an additional 8% in straight line speed. This can essentially bring your straight line speed up to 40 knots, so not terrible. The turning circle radius is 640 meters, which does feel a little bit clunky. Minegumo does feel quite large, and the rudder shift time is 3.6 seconds. Now, I am using propulsion mod. You can reduce that rudder shift time down to 2.9 seconds, but I much prefer having propulsion just for dealing with torpedoes and getting in and out of smoke screens should the need arise. So finally, stats-wise, we come to one of Minegumo's greatest strengths, and that is a concealment rating of 98. Now that is using the concealment system upgrade in slot 5 and the captain's skill concealment expert, and this brings the concealment down to 5.4 kilometers by surface ships. You will be detected by enemy submarines and aircraft at 2.4 kilometers. So very, very good concealment. You will be outspotting the vast majority of all destroyers in the game, with the exceptions of ships like Kagero and Asashio, and then very close to ships like Shimakaze and Yamagiri, for example. So very, very good concealment. And using this concealment to your advantage is going to be key to your performance in Minegumo. Having that spotting advantage and being able to be the initiator in the vast majority of engagements, it's going to give you a huge advantage where it comes to either applying spotting pressure, torping your target, or opening fire with these guns. So very, very strong combination. I like the alpha strike on this Minegumo. The concealment is outstanding, and you do have this delete capability with these very fast short-range torpedoes. So very good concealment, decent alpha on the guns, and high damage potential with the torpedoes. Makes Minegumo very, very dangerous indeed. I never really found I had issues even fighting super destroyers, the so-called tier 11s, just an all-round very strong package. There are notable weaknesses, of course: the distinct lack of any kind of AA defense, the lack of hydro, the lack of fast-turning turrets. These are very noticeable, and learning to work around these will also be key to good performance in this ship. Should you find yourself focused by a CV, you're going to have a tough time. It doesn't matter what kind of ship you're going to be in if you get focused by a CV, but you will really notice it in this, being unable to shoot down fighters. It's very frustrating. So Minegumo will be available during the Battle of Java Sea event. It will cost 190 Java tokens, but it will also be available in bundles for cash and doubloons. So you have multiple ways of acquiring this ship in game. So I hope this little review was able to provide you with some useful information. If you liked the video, please feel free to hit that like button and leave a comment. I will try and answer them all. If you have any questions or queries about the ship, if you'd like to see some live gameplay, feel free to come over and visit me on Twitch. I look forward to seeing you all.
Problem solved, sir. Enemy battleship sunk.